Well, I prepared the letter. It was sent to the organizations that routinely drive our streets. It was asking for their input with respect to capital improvements for 2023. No promises, but just asking for their feedback. We circulated that letter among all of you for your input or whatever, and it seemed to be okay. So we went ahead and put it in final form. I sent it over to Diane Clay, asking her to please mail the letter. I thought perhaps they could put it on letterhead, City of Fort Scott, since we're advisory board, but that didn't matter. Then about that time, she fell ill, and so things kind of went to the back burner. Then she came back, and my understanding, well, I'm still not sure. I got an email to the effect that the letter was being sent, but whether it has been sent, I do not know.
Well, it has been sent, right?
To the half a dozen different organizations.
There hasn't been, I haven't been able to learn about any feedback yet from them. But
I'm not sure whether it's been sent. When I spoke to Diane today about that, because she was out today, she said she had sent it to the advisory board members, but I don't know that.
Well, that was over a month ago that she sent it to the advisory board.
So maybe there's some misunderstanding on where it needs to go now. I'm not 100% sure, but I can check with her
Okay.
tomorrow.
If there's an issue about where it needs to go, I put the names and the mailing addresses of the organizations at the top of the letter.
And I remember you and I discussed that right after Diane got sick.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And early on, as soon as I got it, I called Diane. I'm pretty sure it's Diane, and I said, "Look, we passed on this already. This is being handed to us for information, but it should go out." And I thought it was out. In fact, was it you I talked to today?
Yes.
Okay, I may have misunderstood you. I was under the impression, I guess I was making the assumption that it had gone out as I had requested, but no feedback yet. So I just thought there was a time delay. So I may have been wrong there. That if it hasn't gone out, I'll review that again.
And I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
From what I understood when I texted Diane today, that it hadn't. She had sent it to the members, but maybe there was some miscommunication on sending it out. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
Well, if she sent it to us a week ago, then we received it twice.
Yeah.
And so now it needs to go to the people it needs to go to.
Yeah.
Now,
so if she hasn't sent it, we just need her to do so.
Please do so.
Yeah.
Right. Now, the letter, as I recall, had a request that whatever streets they care to nominate, if any, that be sent to Diane. Okay, she would be the contact person, city clerk, and I put her email address and so forth at the bottom of the letter. At least that would be the way in which they could communicate that. Now the good news is, back in August or July or whenever I did that letter, I asked for them to kindly respond by the end of October.
So we need to change that.
No,
because that's still
we're
September now, so we're good.
I think that still would give them enough time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, I think you're right.
So
you did good.
Yeah.
You did good by accident.
By accident, yeah. So we will see. Also, that letter, if you recall, also had a little thing about if you're tired of bumping over a pothole, let us know about that too. So anyway.
Does anyone have anything to add? Having read the letter, any other comments concerning it? So I gather that then it's for us. I'll continue to check on status.
Okay.
And advise you when if we hear, we should get a lot of response. And I suppose if response doesn't come in quickly, we'll jog their memories.
Right.
the various departments.
Correct. The only thing that might be a little confusing to the recipients of the letters is whether we're going to have a capital improvement street program in 2023. But I'm operating on an assumption that we will, because we need to do that for our streets, the betterment of our streets. But even if we don't hear from them, or we will still, at some point within the next few months, ourselves need to be focusing on that 2023. Remember, we're doing that. I know it seems like a long way off, but we're doing that so that the city will be able to set the agenda for purposes of grants. What if there is a infrastructure improvement bill that's passed, and we need at some point to be able to in advance identify where we want those funds to be targeted. So anyway, so I'm hoping that maybe in our November meeting, we can at least start our process of looking for the 2023.
That'd be about ideal as far as timing, because, you know, right now, I mean, I know it's 2 months ago, but, you know, we gave them 22.
Right.
And we've also seen that 2019, 20, 21 has kind of been kicked down the road.
Yeah.
And it has.
Yeah.
I mean, because of all the roads that are being squawked about right now, Horton, National, Cooper, we have to also remember that Lee Circle Drive was on there as well. And it's not even being mentioned anymore, but it was on there.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think we need to think about, and it's just been brought up to me by several people, is we're responsible for Wall Street, the highway part of Wall Street. And I don't know if you've driven it lately, but it's not getting any better. And so that's something we really need to take into consideration, because that is our corridor. I mean, if let's just say that, you know, of 100% of people who come to Fort Scott, by law of average, at least 25% should be coming in from the east. And that's the first thing they see. Right. I mean, 69 is nice now, and 54, they redid it to pretty much the city limits. But they, you know, of course, KDOT's not going to touch Wall Street. So we need, well, no, they don't. That's part of an agreement that they have.
They send us a bit of money each year.
Yes. That's something
which is not enough to,
you know, and I don't know if that's something that maybe, I don't know if that's a contract, if that's something that our city manager, our city commission could maybe get a hold of the state and ask them, you know, has it been the same for 50 years? I don't know. But that's something well, not that, you know, we're thinking about streets in the future, but that is something that I think maybe we need to look into, is how much funding are we receiving, and has it went up over the years? I mean, if it's the same funding we received in 1974, we have a problem. Because we all know that's gone up.
Well, it is a U.S. highway.
It is.
So it's not a state highway. It's a U.S. highway.
That's true.
So you again kind of wonder, you know, if there are funds that are made available for infrastructure improvements, you know.
Man, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it is a U.S.
I wanted to ask Gary a question too, Gary. What would be considered like a reasonable, in your opinion, lead time to have a capital improvement list and then be able to get whatever specifications are needed and get it out to bid, so that we don't run into the same problem of getting late in the construction season and lose the ability to get those projects done in a timely way? A year? Okay. Okay. So they have the 2022, right? Mm-hmm. And so if in November, December, we got down to it on 2023, that should give them enough time to be able to get those projects. Well, that would be, like Wall Street. Yeah. Okay,
Probably couldn't plan too early.
yeah, right. Because I felt like that's what jammed us up on the 2021. The National, the Cooper, the Horton was, I don't know, I mean,
Well,
are we still?
those were well in it.
Spoken for before
I don't think we decided those.
We didn't.
I think
No.
those were spoken for before.
Yeah, right.
There's a button you push. There you go. You're good.
Okay.
Right, but
yeah, timeline.
the timeline, because the things just kept getting kicked down the roads to the point where have those contracts been let for those streets for
Just
2021?
national.
Just national? And is that to be done in 2021?
Saturday.
Saturday?
According to the city commission meeting, the
Okay.
company that bid that won the bid, is doing some paving down on 69 South,
Okay,
and they're gonna come up here and
okay,
work over, use their weekend.
Yeah.
So their employees can make more money, and kind of the way I understood it. But
okay,
from what I
so
understand, they're
right
supposed
away.
to do that Saturday and Sunday.
what about Cooper and Horton?
Cooper is, according to the city commission meeting Tuesday night, Cooper is not, and I don't think Horton is either. No, they sent Horton back out for bid.
What about Cooper?
No,
I don't think they have any money
they don't have the money to do Cooper.
from what I heard.
It should have, it was better asphalt than it is gravel, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Kind of left it torn
They-
up.
so why would you tear up a street until you knew you had the wherewithal to fix it?
Good question.
I can't answer that.
Well, I mean,
It wasn't come today, I guess.
No, but, the one nice thing is though, I mean, National should be at least overlaid, hopefully, this weekend. Knowing our luck, it'll rain, but it's not supposed to. Man, you got a handful.
you've got your associate with you.
Yeah. Yeah, she's gotta be.
It would be, would be KDOT. No, city manager. Would be KDOT to find out what the difference does. Maintenance of east wall is.
Well,
Susan might even know what that
Susan
is.
probably would know.
Susan,
Mm-hmm. And Mark might even, because, he's been involved in the highway things. Now, when it comes to Wall Street, which is 54 Highway, 54 Highway, the state sends us funds every year for upkeep on that, the way I understand it. Because, when they overlaid 54 all the way from the Bourbon Island line all the way to the city limits, but of course they didn't go down Wall Street.
Right. They stopped obviously on the east side of Highway 16.
Yeah, so my question is, how much are we receiving, for maintenance on that?
We'll have to ask.
Right,
That's a Susan question.
right. And I was also wondering, has that went up over the years? Is that something that's stayed flat? Because let's face it, and then the other question that he brought up, one of these two, I can't remember who it was, brought up a good point that it's a US highway. So is it something that we could maybe look into federal funding for Wall Street? Because it is a US highway.
So, stupid question, but is Highway 69 also US Highway 69?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where in the past, we've gotten our US senators and US congressmen involved in the process of helping to make sure that we get money. So, I'm not gonna call it lobbying, but I know many conversations that would take place,
Mhm.
have taken place, need to take place, continue to take place with our two senators and
Okay.
our local congressman, Jake Latrina, can only help in
Okay.
the process. And then, of course, keeping the strong lines of communication with our two state senators, Richard Hildebrand and Karen Tyson.
Mhm.
And then we have two local representatives here that help with us.
Okay.
So those individuals are important KDOT had a Zoom meeting yesterday and they talked about funds. And so I'm going to the Highway 69 corridor meeting, annual meeting, it's next week on the 15th in Pittsburgh. So I've been on that committee, but now I'll be representing the city of Fort Scott there. Susan's going with me as the finance director. And so we may have, hopefully, some other information. KDOT folks will be there at the meeting.
Okay. Well, that's something that, you know, I think we need to get from Susan is that information at some point, which I can ask her myself.
That'll come out of the meeting minutes, and so I'll get with Susan on that.
And that's not a problem. I mean, I could ask her myself too, so.
So, why don't you, what do you think about having him ask about that? And then have Diane give us something in writing that comes to all the members so we know what the status is.
Okay. Sounds great.
Yeah, we want to be ready if there's an infrastructure bill passed.
Absolutely, yes.
As ready as one can be, you know, without wasting time in case it doesn't pass. So.
You're going to the Highway 69 meeting.
Yes, next week.
Would you be able to ask them what the status of the Scenic Byways Advisory Board is? The Scenic Byways Advisory Board, I'm a member, but we haven't, it's been inactive. I've never been chairman of it, but I haven't heard anything on it in a year. Or have you? And
I didn't even know there was a board, so.
What it does is.
Is that a state board? State board?
What it was, it's about the Scenic Byway 69 from Fort Leavenworth down to Oklahoma. And we met periodically and we lost our leader and I haven't heard from him in probably nearly a year. I don't really know who to talk to. But my name's on an advisory board at the rest of the.
Oh, really?
Anyway, that's off track, but I'd like to hear about that because their efforts and what is being done in that 69 area is important. Well,
Do you guys want a quick catch up on what, they came in a little late. Do you want a quick catch up on what we did already before you got here?
If you feel it's necessary or pertinent, please do.
Well, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, just to make it real quick, we are redoubling our efforts to get our letter sent out to the organizations and around town that routinely use our streets. And we've put together a letter. It's been a couple of months ago. We're asking that Diane make sure that that letter is sent out to those entities. This would be like the fire department, police, EMS, bus drivers, trolley driver, postal, letter carriers, asking for their input for our capital improvement nominations for 2023.
Okay.
And also any particular nasty bad potholes that they care to identify.
Okay.
We thought it would be good to reach out to those folks that do routinely drive our streets and see what sort of feedback that we get. We're going to try to get our 2023 list. We've already done 2022. That's been submitted and the city accepted those nominations. We're wanting to get 2023 done the end of this year. Feel like it takes maybe a year in advance so that we can, go through the specification. The engineer can look at stuff. We can decide what to do, when to do it, get the contracts let within a reasonable construction season, so that we kind of keep the ball rolling on that part of it. So
Great.
That is one thing in the works.
And then
We took a little, we got a little report. Understand that National is being addressed as soon as this weekend. Not sure about Cooper. Maybe you all have input on that.
National, they're gonna start milling possibly tomorrow night, new equipment, depending on the time they get their equipment here. We'll be done milling Saturday, and then they will pave next Saturday, so they'll be done today.
Okay, so the milling is the additional asphalt? that's on there
Yes,
already?
yeah.
Okay. What about Cooper?
Cooper's
Tabled.
Really?
Okay, the estimate and the amount that came in, so was about $775,000 for the Cooper Street project, which is from 23rd Street to 20th Street. In
From 23rd to where?
20th Street.
Yes. That little bitty section.
And nothing
Three?
from there to East National.
That's correct. No engineering, and there are no estimates at this time for 20th Street to East National.
So it will remain rock. A rock road.
Well, I certainly hope not, but yes. So there has been discussions on
Is there something that accounts for that high cost estimate? I assume that's an estimate, or would that,
no, that was the bid is 700.
the low bid, low qualified bid was 700 and whatever.
Yeah.
There's one from Kansas City. They're 795,000, and then a local contractor who gets a 7% discount.
Mhm.
So it was 816,000, which he would win because of the
For 3 blocks, what accounts for that?
all the curbing, the
Curbing, okay. What
curbing
else?
was the majority of it, but then concrete and then your base work, shoring up the base. And,
So it's gonna be not asphalt, but concrete?
that was the original plan. Yeah, that's how it was.
How thick is the concrete?
6 inches. But with they'll have 12 inches of rock, 12 inches of base, and then the rock, and then 6 inches of concrete.
that also includes some land acquisition because they're moving the road about 15 feet to the east. So that's what was projected there. You also have to move the power poles, the water, fire hydrants had to be moved. There was much more involved in it than was first thought out. And so I know it's been torn up for a long time. I've spoken many times with the lady who lives on that street. I closed the street down at one point. I have restricted traffic on Cooper from 20th to 23rd Street so that she does not have a significant amount of dust and dirt that's being kicked up by the trucks and traffic that's on that road. I don't think anybody really calculated enough into all the people that use it as an alternative to Margrave or Highway 69 to get into and out of the industrial park. But also all the trucks that they should have calculated, all of the cement trucks that travel there. As we all know, there's no signal light or traffic light at 20th and 69th Street. So if I'm in a truck, I want to go to Cooper Street, proceed south to 23rd Street to pull out onto Highway 69.
Well, tell me there's been a teaching moment here.
Yes, I've learned a lot. I have already had discussions with the engineers. What can we do to minimize this cost? Because it is, I'm a brand new city manager, but in my opinion, it's way high. So, and that's another reason why they tabled it. They were not expecting a cost like that.
Why has curbing been decided that it's necessary on that road?
So the problem is all the water that it gets.
Yeah.
So and then with the heavy truck traffic and all the weight, if you don't put some type of curbing to shore up everything that you put in the middle for the road, it'll push it out and cause it to break down at a much higher rate than if you shore it up with something to hold the road together. Essentially, they're saying without the curbing, you go from a 20-year road to a 8-year road.
Right. So is the road going to so after excavation, would it then be lowered than it is currently now?
No.
To get the curbs to that height, or are we bringing in topsoil along those ditches that are currently there? Because as the road sits now, it's higher than the ditches are currently. So wouldn't those curbs just wash out if they aren't lowered or there's no
concrete
backfill
curbs?
put up? Yeah.
No. I mean that they accounted for all that. It's. I mean, I guess I'd have to check.
Well, I think they're just talking from 20th to 2030.
Right, yeah, and that's the most narrow part, and
Mhm.
that's actually where the deepest ditches are.
It won't be
Or no.
narrow after they get through
Mhm.
moving it.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
and is the bridge going out there at 23rd where the culvert is, or what's the remedy for where the bridge is right now?
They'll shore up the culvert, and I mean it'll be concrete over the bridge. It'll be a new.
It'll be
that's part of
moved.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's two different alternatives.
I don't think they're moving the bridge.
They're not.
You're saying
Are
that's.
they widening it?
That was the original
Okay.
plan, but they're having some land acquisition problems, so that may not.
That would be one area that could save us a lot of money if they don't want it.
Right.
Yes, so, we have to look, my opinion, we have to look at all options because if it was my money, and it is my money, I would not spend $700
Right.
plus $1,000 to do that, plus another $200,000 possibly to do 20th to East National.
Right.
So, there's a lot of areas in the town that need work, so what can we do to minimize this, to take funds elsewhere? That's my opinion, and I'm not a highway road guy, nor am I an engineer.
But so there's still no timeline though for. So did it go back to bids or did it just get tabled?
The bids, it's just tabled currently,
Okay.
but eventually it'll cause it to. They only last for 60 days,
Right.
so they'll expire.
Okay.
So then the conversation is, do you re-engineer it? How do we re-engineer it? What can we do to take, throw a number out, what can we do to take 25% out of that? Can we get from 750 down to 500,000? That's not 25%.
Right.
Can we get a couple $100,000 off of that? And what will it take to do that? So, it's important. I'm, as the city manager, I'm very concerned that it's tore up. It's currently tore up. I see no immediate answer for this, even if we were to approve something, it wouldn't start till spring.
Right.
I mean, unless it's all concrete, which can happen, but you're keeping the cost way up. So unless somebody here wants to donate a couple of 100 tons of concrete.
So is the maintainer running on that a week or the
Maintainer, the road grader.
the road grader
Yeah, we're doing it
once a week? Okay.
Weekly.
Yeah, and we've even discussed what can we do in addition to that? Can we put down some oil to keep all the dust?
Right.
Yes, so we're looking at that happening. We talked about watering it every 2 or 3 days. That was recently as rain. I'm sorry, I can't recall the lady's last name.
McKean.
Sorry?
McKean.
Yes, she's pleased that I've been speaking with her, and that I'm paying attention to their needs, and that I've reduced the traffic on there, reduced the speed on there. Closing it down completely has resulted in significant phone calls to multiple commissioners saying that that's a bad thing, because now they have to go out to 69 and go down and so forth. So meeting the needs of everybody is not possible.
Right.
So I'll split the difference. If they're gonna exceed 20 miles an hour, then maybe I'll create an S curve on there, so now they'll have to go 6 miles an hour. I don't know, but I can leave it open, and I can make it a little more difficult for you to go down that road too fast. So it will help create less dust.
Do you know how the decision was made to tear Cooper Street up before there was apparently some kind of a solid engineering plan?
That all happened prior to my existence.
Yeah. We were not here for that to take place. The reason I'm
But
speaking
you
into the
know.
microphone is I've listened to these meetings, and oftentimes you cannot hear what's being said, so I appreciate you speaking into the microphone.
So
That's okay, yeah.
I know, okay, I'm sorry. I know it wasn't on your watches.
Yes.
But do you know how it came about that Cooper got torn up before we had any kind of engineering work, bids, plans and specs, whatever it was that has thrown us into this place?
I'm kind of have a rough idea, but I think it's mostly speculation. So I don't want to say what I've been told because it's all hearsay for the most part.
But we're not going to do this again, are we?
I mean, that's
Not under my watch.
Okay. Yeah.
that's
no,
Your temporary watch.
Yes, but you know, one of the things that I've been doing over the last year and a half is outside consulting for a much less fee than I'm currently getting, which was zero and has been zero. And so this is a heck of an increase. But I have been placing myself at the feet of the county to try to help in the process of how well this county can run and how we need to work more collaboratively. Well, now here I am on the other side, and I see that there's a need here too. So maybe they want to get rid of me, maybe they don't. Maybe they need somebody who's a part-time consultant who has a lot of business acronym, pick another word, business experience. You know, I've been part of 60 constructions from purchasing the ground to opening 60 McDonald's restaurants in 7 different states. And so construction roads are not new to me. You know, when we talk about asphalt and base and concrete and base and 6/4 and 6/12 and 12/6, and what about a combination of slurry sealing it every other year, or what about slurry seal in a coat, or what about a chip seal? Those are all things that I've been involved with. And so none of that's new. And but when it's your money, you think about it a little bit differently. But I've always thought of anything I do as my money. So I see no reason to stop being involved with the great folks at the county who are trying to do a good job and who currently have the opportunity of me injecting my thoughts, opinions, and ideas in my 46 years of experience in things of similar nature. I don't claim to be a city manager, knowledgeable person in the government side, but when it comes to these things, it's the art of management, managing people and products and equipment, engineering. You know, can't do this project if we don't have the equipment. Well, are we capable of doing the project with this equipment? So now I'll speculate as a former citizen, not as the city manager. So 2 different things. You know, I don't know anything for a fact. What I had heard was that they engaged to want to do this, and they said this road needs to be worked on. So they started, and they didn't have plans. And
So who decided that? Who made that decision? That's my question.
Oh,
from my understanding.
Because this has led to a huge,
yeah.
a huge snafu, and I would just be very interested in knowing who it was that decided
My
to do
suggestion,
that.
I think you have all the rights and privileges that you should come to a city commission and ask them. If anybody should know, it should be them. They were here, including
all of them. The
Josh-
only one that may
Josh?
not have been
Josh probably was not.
Josh would have been not here.
Yeah. But
Okay.
through conversations, that's where it should be addressed, because the problem with us is we're speculating, and I don't want to speculate.
Right.
You know, I'm a citizen
All right.
first here and had lots of conversations with lots of people around the coffee table. That didn't make me an expert, but I think what I did before has provided me with knowledge and ability to make the right decision. In a
Well, I
number
guess
of
I'm somewhat
situations.
pleased to hear that even though we don't know who, we know the what. And the what tells us and informs us that we should not do this again. We should not be tearing up
Yes.
a street, a road, and then hope
Yeah.
that we could either A, find money, or B, find specs, or C, find, a qualified low-bid contractor.
Well, in my limited experience here, Jesse and I have already discussed this, and that is that the Public Works Department should not be removing roads or replacing roads.
And-
That.
Yeah, and the original plan involved the Public Works, doing the bulk of the work, and I think they realized that my department's not equipped to handle that or have the skill set or the sufficient number of guys with the skill
Right.
set to do it.
Right.
But I know you asked. You hope that this doesn't happen again, but something that people need to be informed about. We need to really make sure that the 1% is not repealed. If that happens, that'll be very detrimental to the entire city. Not just streets, but the fire department, the police department. I mean, it would not be good for the city. And one of our commissioners is very pro to repeal that, and we need to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, some of us took a very public stand in favor of the extension of the half-cent sales tax
This,
Yeah,
This
for
is
5 years. For
and that-
5 years,
this is
with it,
different.
with I know it's
This-
different, but with the commitment, a large portion to streets, some portion to parks. Okay,
exactly.
the proof is in the pudding. The proof is going to be how has that money been spent. If you want the goodwill of the public to not repeal that 1%
Well,
that's used for streets, the public needs to see that the money is being spent wisely, prudently, and
Well-
efficiently, and not in some kind of a of a Cooper Street swamp.
and I understand I understand your frustration, but and that is my goal. I've only been here 7 weeks, so I'm working towards that. But if that 1% is repealed in November, you're not going to get to see any pudding because it's going to happen way sooner than you get any proof in the pudding.
I got you. Now, one other quick one, and I'll be quiet then. In respect of what you said about who would be doing the work, do you feel that as a street advisory board that we should continue to take up and to consider presenting our candidates, our street nominations for capital improvements?
Yeah, I think that would be greatly appreciated, and it's useful, and that was part of the reason that I wanted to be here today too. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in our streets I know have lacked. I know.
You're on.
I know a lot of you guys don't know me, but I have actually lived here for quite some time. I just lived in the county and wasn't in town very often. So, I mean, I have a vested interest in Fort Scott just like everyone else does. And the success and the well-being of our town is benefits me just as much as it benefits everyone else. And I know a lot of stuff was lacked. Taking steps to try to get companies that we have a crack sealing machine that hasn't been used in years. They're coming to train our guys so that we can use that. Those are cheaper maintenance deals that haven't ever been utilized. There's lots of things that we're working towards bettering our stuff and improving. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight.
Well, as I've said in here several times before, runway behind you isn't any good. You got to look at what's ahead. That's a Navy pilot talking, but the Cooper Street's a history with us, right? We are through with Cooper.
Yeah.
So what do we want to address?
Well, I think right now we're just at a point where we need to get the letters back and go forward from there. I mean, because really the only thing that we need to do is start working on 2023. And until we get the letters back, there's really not much for this committee to do. I mean,
Well,
does anybody?
The one thing we'd like to see done is, I'm sure you guys all know everybody loves our brick streets and that, but one, I don't have anybody currently that really has the skill or the know-how to replace that in a very skilled or sufficient way. But with that, regardless of that, we're eventually going to run out of bricks. So we need to make a list, compile a list of which streets, obviously exclude the historic district because that will be safe. But eventually some of these streets that are too far gone, we need to start determining what streets we are willing to put back in something else other than brick so we can use those bricks to replace the streets that we do want to save.
You're not aware of what we had decided on that this board recommended?
Sorry, what's that?
On brick streets, you're not aware of what we recommended?
No, I
Don't cover any of them. Isn't that pretty much? Do not cover any brick streets. If they're exposed now, do not cover them.
yes, sir. That's what. But what I'm saying, what are we gonna do when we run out of bricks to
Yeah,
repair?
That's down the road, but that's our advice to you. And we don't, correct me if I'm wrong, gang, but we don't want to see a pothole machine putting asphalt in a good
And-
brick street.
And I don't disagree, and one of our commissioners thinks that is what we should do, but I'm not disagreeing with you. But say like Judson Street over here in North Judson, I mean, you go down it, you can barely drive down it. That's a street that
We
should
did
be.
a very careful analysis of the brick streets. We did a very detailed report on streets, and I hope you have a copy of that. But we had an engineer analyze the streets. He rated each one by the condition it was in, and then we made recommendations concerning to where you go first. You know, somewhere that report is in the mill.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if we work worse first, we'll never catch up, because if you don't maintain your good streets, they're eventually going to be worse as well. So, and what I'm asking you, like, what is your solution if we don't cover any brick, and then we eventually run out of brick? Then how do we determine which streets are we just not gonna repair them at all, or that's where we're gonna run into a problem?
You think we're going to run out of bricks in the present brick streets
This
that
is
we have?
this
You
is
don't
the
think
first
there's-
I've heard that we're about to run out of brick.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a big pile, but they're not. There's a lot of broken and then we don't have. Maybe this street's Fort Scott bricks. Maybe this one's pavers. That's the issue, is coming up with enough of like bricks as well.
But is
Okay.
it clear to you our position?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay,
it's
that's what
it's
I
pretty
wanted you to
black
know.
and white. If it's
We're not talking about building new brick streets. From where you would go to a stockpile, you would take brick. We're talking about the repair of a brick street in which the brick would be removed. Presumably what's underneath would be compacted. Traditionally, there's been a couple of inches, I think, of concrete poured in an area outside of the perimeter of a dip itself. And then the bricks are put back
I understand that, but
where there would not be any. Now,
But-
sure, there's going to be a few bricks you're going to have to replace, but
I mean, we have a limited budget, and that's where it's gonna the maintenance of the
Correct.
existing
So-
brick streets to pull up bricks, and we can't just be pulling them up and throwing them, because we need them to stay good so we can replace them. Correct?
yes,
So that takes time,
yes,
and then pouring concrete, it's more expensive than asphalt. Sand is needed, and then the time to put bricks back, that's 2 to 3 times the length to repair a asphalt or even a concrete street. So
understood.
that's not. I mean,
It's understood.
Were you
There-
aware
there
that
were-
we did a cost?
There were two
Were
two
you-
streets in our 2022 capital improvements that were brick. Crawford Street between Wall and Third. I think Wall and First is a real nasty place. And the other is on Main Street, starting at Sixth and headed as far north as one can go. This would take you in front of the school board office, for example,
Mhm.
just to get you oriented.
Oh, 6th Street in Maine going north.
On Main.
Okay.
Main
Oh,
is the brick. Main is the brick street. part.
Excuse me. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
and yeah, I understand that.
Are you suggesting that you plan to make changes to replace bricks?
I mean, that would be ideal, but that's not. I mean, it's not in the process.
No, I mean replace the brick street, the street. Now, we have told you that we recommend that you leave and repair the brick streets themselves. Are you aware of any cost analysis that we have done that shows you the relative cost of maintaining the brick streets as opposed to the asphalt?
I've not seen it.
We did a report. You can find it, and you'll learn that it's a multiple of costs to use asphalt. It has to be replaced periodically. Do you know how long it's been since we did any work at all on Main Street from the Fort to East National?
Yeah, it's been roughly 11 years, 12 years.
Probably 50.
That's not true. I was here in college. I pulled
What
the
did
whole
you
street
do
up.
on it? What did you do on, other than,
I pulled the whole street up when we
you
replaced the
pulled
water
whole-
lines.
You pulled Main Street up?
Sure did.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've
I
been
did
here.
it myself.
Right up here.
oh, maybe a little section over here on,
Main
First.
Street and State Street. I mean,
Yeah.
almost and First.
and the Amish put it back in.
Yeah. For
That's-
Marbury, I was here when it happened. I was
That's
in
not
college.
Main, that's Scott Avenue.
We did some on Main Street too.
May I interject? May I interject?
Go ahead.
Okay, your concerns should all be addressed to the city commissioners who determine what we do.
Okay.
So
And-
you discussing this with us, Ralph, just let me finish, please.
Okay.
I clearly hear you and I understand exactly what you're saying. You need to make sure the city commissioners hear it. They make the decision, not us.
Yeah, we briefed them and they obviously haven't passed the word.
You briefed all of them or one of them?
The city manager who passes it, he's the guy who manages the city,
He's not here anymore.
I mean,
And he didn't pass that along to me because I had zero. So what I'm suggesting to you, because the city manager works for the city commissioners,
Okay.
he has authority up to the point when they terminate him.
Okay, we'll
So you're aware that they terminated him for cause, and he doesn't work here anymore. So therefore, if again, like I said earlier, your best bet is to go before the commission and make sure that all 5 commissioners clearly understand your position. I don't know if that exists. I know there was a commissioner in here at one meeting,
Mhm.
but I sit on other boards. Skitch is, I'm pointing over there because Skitch sits over there. He's on the Lake Advisory Board, and Dr. Nichols is on the Housing Board. And oftentimes what happens is, in my opinion, as a citizen, is that the message from the meeting doesn't get clearly explained to the commissioners because there's lost in translation. So I just think the best thing to do is, because he would do something at my direction, and I'm not going to tell him to go out and remove a brick street, but I just think that
My point is, I'm getting a little tired of coming to our meetings and finding information that sounds like they may be inclined to replace from some brick streets, when we have told them from day one, nearly, that we want to save the historic district. In fact, we have written, there's documentation. Aren't there records of our meetings? So
I
if
don't
a
think the
commissioner
historic
cares-
district was never up for debate.
Huh?
The very first thing I said was excluding the historic district. It was never up for debate, but that's fine. That's
Yeah.
neither here nor there. We can move on to something more useful.
No, but I
Well,
wanted to.
I appreciate acting city manager's comments because we have had, attending these meetings, not a city commissioner, we've actually had a liaison person, a city employee who regularly, routinely attends our meetings and is designated as the liaison. Now, we don't have that person here today.
Who was that?
The last person was Susan Bancroft.
Really?
She, I think, was reassigned, and I don't know that
Well,
anyone replaced her.
Last meeting we had, it was Ally.
Allison Turvey?
Yes.
Okay.
That's right, Allison
Allie was
Turvey.
here for Diane though.
Oh,
She
She
taking
was here
notes.
for
Yeah.
Diane. That's
Okay.
true.
Taking
That's
notes.
true. So we didn't
Right,
have.
and before Susan, it was Chad Brown,
Okay.
Mhm.
Public Works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've had some turnover there. And I think maybe and I appreciate you saying this because we are under an assumption that what we take up, discuss, come to consensus on would be communicated by our liaison person. But that apparently hasn't happened. So now we need to do it in a more direct way.
The Lake Advisory Board has Nancy Van Etten as their chairman.
What?
Nancy Van Etten is the Lake Advisory Board chairperson. She comes to many of the commission meetings and clearly expresses her board's thoughts, opinions, ideas. I'm not telling you have to come, Ralph, but if you don't, I would highly suggest you encourage one of your other members to come here and to present So a good example is the lake properties out there that are for sale, or not all of them yet, or any of them, but Nancy came here and was very adamant about that money being spent only at the lake. So the same thing, I would encourage one of you to go to the city commission meeting, get on the agenda. If you want me to put you on the next one, I will, and indicate how important it is that they clearly understand our position is we want brick streets saved, period. So that, or however you want to phrase it. And then anyhow. So did I say it wrong by saying brick streets saved? Okay.
I believe it's perfectly clear what this board desires. It's also perfectly clear that we are not the policymakers. And
That's correct.
if they choose not to take our advice, then I should be fishing. But that's what we have told them over and over and repeatedly, and I'm not about to go to them again and say, look, please do what we've told you that we want. So if they don't understand that by now, why are we here?
Would you like me to go to the next meeting and clearly express your desires?
Yes, if you will.
I will.
Okay.
I'm trying to make sure that I do the right thing for the people in Fort Scott.
We don't want executives, we don't want employees to come in and make us feel like the bricks are going to be covered. We don't want to hear that. If they are, then tell us that they're ignoring what we've recommended, and then we'll go to something else. Now, we don't have all the answers for sure, and we may not understand, but we've been asked to spend our valuable time here. I could be fishing. And there are people around this table whose time is worth something. Mine isn't. But we expect to be listened to. Am I off with you guys?
No. I think we've covered that, though.
Okay.
Next.
Well, it's a little bit of the naval aviator coming out in me. I expect
an obligation letter, so we're getting close.
Yeah, we've got 5 minutes to excel. So let's move to the nomination of new officers. A year, is that what you're saying?
No,
Oh,
we don't need to do that.
what? We had talked about passing the hat. You want to just worry about that next month? Or shall we do it
I think
now?
we should go ahead and do it.
Okay. I feel I've been honored to chair this thing for a year, and it's been a challenge. And you guys are great to work with, and I'll continue to hang in here. But I'd like to just be like a second lieutenant for a while rather than the commander.
Well, let's say the second in command is Charles, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we need another second command, Brian?
Brian, sure.
I don't have a problem with that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Do you accept that?
Sure, I will.
Okay.
Thank you, Ralph. The first year is the hardest, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
Getting things together. And so, thank you.
You know, it may not look like it, but I had to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
But we had professionals talk for us, and we laid out some plans, and we got things rolling. And
There you go.
now all we need is an occasional Big Mac from McDonald's, and
I'd like to mention one thing before we close. And we're on brick streets. I've talked to Matt Wells and them a number of times. He's talked about this machine they have that they used in Europe, and now it's coming to the United States. And you take the bricks up, you put it in the machine, it lays it back down, makes it somewhat more economical. He has some kind of presentation. I wouldn't mind seeing it sometime.
I've seen
You seen it?
I've seen videos of it. I haven't seen it actually in action.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It's very interesting.
yeah.
Because one guy is literally standing there just putting the bricks, and they also do them in herringbone. And it just you just lay them on. It's like a pattern, and the thing just keeps moving. If that is something that we could use, man, it'd be nice.
I think it's a rather expensive machine,
Probably.
and
so.
whether you could lease it or contract with.
Well, supposedly according to Matt, they were making some of the United States, it was half the cost of what they were doing in Europe.
It'd be something worth looking into.
I thought it'd be worth looking into for long-term planning. If it worked, that would be a good way to, it doesn't sound like it takes a lot of skilled labor. Maybe you'd have one person to do it.
Well, it's like there was one person on the machine, and then people were bringing them
Yeah.
on
But
both
as far as
sides.
the skilled
Right.
Yeah.
operation.
It was like a 3-man crew. It was very interesting, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway. I
You
know
know, I'd like, if
some
he's got a
information
presentation on that, I think that'd be kind of nice to see. So.
Should we invite him to come to our October meeting and share with us what he has?
I think he would be.
Okay.
He would
let's-
love to come, I know.
All right, we'll check. Let's check and see.
Are we
Try to
meeting
get
in
him here.
October? Are we meeting
Are we
in
gonna go ahead and
October?
meet in October then?
I think so. Second Thursday
Okay.
of the
Okay.
month. It may not be a full hour, but
It doesn't have
we
to
can,
be.
we can see whether we're getting any response. We
it's-
can also kind of, again, preliminarily begin looking at our next tier of streets.
And are we getting any, we'll know if we're getting
We're getting,
responses now too.
yeah,
so.
hopefully,
I-
hopefully.
I keep bringing this to every meeting. You're going to Highway 69 Scenic Corridor Management Plan meeting. I guess, I presume you've seen that.
Yes, I have a copy of it.
And I've always been curious as to why we haven't, if this was in 2010, why we haven't done anything on it. But from what I've read, it's really a neat plan. The entrance to Fort Scott is beautiful, would be perfect, and to follow this rather than try to reinvent the wheel. Might be a good plan since we spent, I don't know what we spent, maybe $500,000 developing it. I don't know. Well, Jesse, good to have you here the first time, and I hope you can take the fire okay. And Mark, thanks for showing up. Thank you. And I was hoping to, of course, you're out of the Big Mac business, aren't you? So.
Yeah, I came because I heard there was dinner being provided.
Well, thank you for the year you guys have given me. It's been super with the expertise that all I had to do is keep my feet off the ground and keep moving, and you did it. So, thank you. And
Thank you.
I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. Anyone object? Just hang out here. Good job, Ralph. Thank you.
Jesse, I'm Charles. What you said is